I just shot and killed my two kids, and I shot my wife.
What address
I'm going to shoot myself now.
Sir, what address you at?
What?
What address you at?
450 South First Street, St. Charles, Unit 406. I'm going to kill myself now, too.
Sir.
I'm going to kill myself.
Sir. All right, so 450 South First Street in St. Charles? Sir, stay on the line with me. Hello? Sir? Yeah.
This is Randy Coughlin, smiling next to his family. In March 2017, he killed both his twin daughters, Tiffany and Brittany. Then, he attempted to kill his wife, Anjum. The reason behind this is simply outrageous.
I want to live and stuff like that.
This is the full harrowing story of Randall and Anjum Coughlin. Trigger warning, the following video discusses violence against children and suicide. This is your chance to turn back. Today's story begins in St. Charles, Illinois.
St. Charles, Illinois offers its residents a high standard of living. It is one of the best places to live in Illinois and offers exponential public schools, low crime rates, award-winning green spaces and parks, and a historic downtown.
A Chicago suburb, St. Charles is indeed the ideal place to raise a family. And this was on Randy and Anjum's minds in the early 1990s. Anjum was only 17 when she met Randy. He was charming, thoughtful, and very convincing. Within a few months, Anjum moved in with him. But her Pakistani family did not agree with this. In fact, they were so upset that they disowned her. Anjum had no idea their fixation would last a lifetime. I thought within a week, maybe a month, maybe 2 months, they'll come around, but they didn't. They didn't reach out to me, so for 25 years, no contact. So Randy became all Anjum had. He was her lover, her confidant, and the breadwinner of the house. Soon, he would become a controlling monster. On March 14th, 2000, Anjum gave birth to twin daughters, Tiffany and Brittany. Their names rhymed and they looked very similar to each other. But don't judge a book by its cover. The girls grew up into two different teenagers with very defined personalities.
Brittany was more outgoing. She did cheerleading, gymnastics, and Tiffany was a little bit more reserved, but still very outgoing after you get to know her. They were both very sweet, very kind, very helpful to their friends. They were happy kids. They were very happy. They were spoiled, of course, but they were also liked going to concerts, and concerts made them super happy.
Brittany and Tiffany brought nothing but love and joy to their mother. But with Randy, it was always a bit more complicated. When Anjum found out she was pregnant with twins, she was scared to break the news to him.
I was scared to tell my husband because we waited 10 years before we decided to have kids. And I was scared. I was like, oh my gosh, we didn't even wanted to have one. Now we're gonna have two. How is he gonna feel about this? And when he found out, he was okay with it. He's like, it's okay. It's like, okay. But I was scared to tell him.
Every now and then, Randy would show very controlling behavior towards Anjum. Anjum was convinced to leave her family, start a new life with Randy, and let him earn the money for the entire family, while she worked a small part-time job. Sadly, this gave Randy a sort of delusion of grandeur, an impression that he ruled the family and that Anjum had to do what she was told. His personality changed over time. It changed because he got an ego, Anjum said. He was taking care of all of us. Everyone listens to him in the house. I couldn't do anything without asking him. He just got a chip on his shoulder, and it got worse and worse. The twins were still very young when Anjum decided she wanted to break up with Randy, but he wouldn't have it.
I had asked him for a divorce more than once, twice, 3 times. I've asked him for a divorce almost 10 years ago. And at that time, the girls were little.
Whenever Anjum would bring up the divorce, Randy would threaten her that she wouldn't survive without his money. I was just working a little side job. My husband said, "You leave, I'll quit my job. Then how are you gonna survive?" And it was true. With 2 girls to take care of and 0 support from her family, Anjum couldn't make it on her own. She was stuck in an unhappy relationship, so she tried to make it better. The couple went to therapy, but Randy only became more controlling with time. In 2015, Randy got diagnosed with depression and was prescribed medication. Over the next 2 years, he would increase his dose and often gulp it down with loads of alcohol. He was in a bad state, and Anjum couldn't take it anymore. In February 2017, Anjum decided it was time to leave her husband. On February 8th, the couple had an evening-long fight that only ended when Randy grabbed Anjum's cell phone and broke it in 2. Then he drove off in her car. That night, Anjum called the police. The following day, a police report stated that both Randy and Anjum were at Delnor Hospital. However, the police didn't disclose any further details except that there was no physical violence involved. That day, Anjum decided she would leave that house for good. Tiffany and Brittany were now 16, so their mom figured they were old enough to take the bad news. The kids were old enough and could understand everything. We explained to them, Mom and Dad are just not working out. And they knew that. When you're that miserable, it's hard to wait another year or 2 years. Finally, Randy agreed to a separation. It wasn't a divorce, but it meant Anjum could gain some distance from him at least.
We as a couple decided it's the best thing to do is to go off our separate ways. He's like, I don't know how else you're gonna do this, but you need to leave right now. Find a place to live.
That month, Anjum found a 1-bedroom apartment just a few minutes away from the big family condo. But since her new apartment was much smaller, the family decided the girls should stick with their dad. The separation was disruptive enough, and it would be nice for the girls to at least have a constant home, Anjum thought. Sadly, that decision signed their death sentence. As soon as Anjum was out of the house, Randy took control of the girls. He started acting as if Anjum had no right to see her own daughters. He was bitter about her decision to break up with him, and this was his punishment.
I was not allowed to see the girls without him. I was told, please don't text your daughters. Don't text them goodnight. Don't have a conversation with them. And if my daughters wanted to come and see me, they were not allowed to be alone with me.
Needless to say, this didn't sit well with Anjum or the twins. They were very close, and they really wanted to stay in contact with each other, no matter what Randy's opinion about it. But the more Anjum pushed in that direction, the more vindictive Randy got. But at the same time, he was begging his estranged wife to come back to him. On Thursday, March 9th, Randy visited Anjum with a bottle of wine. As he got tipsy, he told her he wanted them to get back together. But Anjum had made up her mind. She wanted to stay separated from him. Even if he'd never grant her the divorce papers, she would at least be living in a different house. This was the tipping point for the already unstable Randy.
I started getting messages from Randy at work. He was drinking a lot. He was hiding wine bottles in his bedroom. And the text messages start out by saying, I want to see you. If you can come by, I'll give you all the paperwork you need for whatever things you need, you know. And then I got a text from him saying, you know, I have secrets too. I go, okay, I'll tell you when you come here. I said to him, you're scaring me. Why can't you just tell me right now? He's like, no, you'll find out when you get here.
On Friday, March 10th, Randy bombarded Anjum with texts. First, he threatened that he was going to take his life. Then, he manipulated her into coming to the condo so she would find out his secrets. It was the worst secret imaginable. A few minutes before, at 5 p.m., Randy called the police.
911.
I just shot and killed my 2 kids, and I shot my wife.
What address
I'm going to
you
shoot myself now.
Sir, what address you at?
What?
What address you at?
450 South First Street, St. Charles, Unit 406. I'm going to kill myself now, too.
Sir.
I'll kill myself.
Sir. All right, so 450 South First Street in St. Charles. Sir, stay on the line with me. Hello? Sir? Yeah.
At the same time, the family neighbor had heard Anjum's blood-chilling screams. She wasted no time in calling 911.
We did an ambulance for unit 406.
Okay, yeah, we already got on the way. What's going on? Okay.
She said her girls are dead.
Okay.
Something happened.
Is she injured at all?
She's not injured. She's not injured.
What unit are you in?
She's sitting on the floor. I'm in unit 405. She's in 406.
All right, just make sure you lock the door and get into a safe place.
Me? Okay. And then somebody's coming right away?
They're already on the way.
Okay.
Stay on the line with me, okay? So there's,
Yeah.
so,
Okay.
who is this person?
Right now.
Who is this person?
Someone's coming right now.
Who is this person? Do we know?
Oh, gosh. I think it's her mother.
The mother.
I think it's her mother. And she's sitting in a pool of blood. I can see blood coming out from behind her.
But she's not injured?
She doesn't seem injured. She's just sitting down.
Did she say who did this, ma'am?
Imagine the shock of coming into your own home to see your two daughters gunned down on the floor. When Anjum arrived at the condo to talk about Randall's reported secrets, he had already killed their daughters. That was his secret. This was how angry he was at her for breaking up with him. In his mind, Tiffany and Brittany were just objects of their mother's love. Taking them out would be the ultimate punishment for Anjum. He never thought about their right to live, and for a moment, it seemed like he never loved them. When Anjum arrived home, Randy was still holding his newly purchased gun. He proudly announced the girls were dead. Anjum let out the most horrifying scream, and then Randy shot her in the leg.
I want you to live and stuff like I did.
Yeah, he didn't want her dead. He wanted her to live through the pain every single day. In his warped mind, this was the equal, justified response to her decision to leave him. Then, Randy ran into the master bedroom and locked the door.
She said her girls are dead.
One
She's
second.
saying my girls are dead.
One second, please. Hold on now. Ma'am?
Yes.
Are the officers with you or no?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
By now, the neighbor was with Anjum in the living room.
Try to stay calm. Where are you shot? In your foot? He was shot in her foot or her leg. Stay still. Yeah, the police are here.
Okay, I'll let you with them.
Also at 5 p.m., Anjum called 911.
Please, come here. No!
Where do you need help at?
St. Charles.
Where in St. Charles?
Oh my God, my husband shot my kids.
Okay, I need to know where you are. I can help you, but I need help. Where are
I
you?
don't know. In the 406. God, somebody please help me.
Okay, ma'am, what address are you at?
Open the door. Call 911.
Ma'am, what address are you at?
Oh my God.
Ma'am, where are you at?
Sir.
Ma'am, I can help you, but I need to know where you are.
Poor Anjum was in no mental state to even remember her own address.
Please call 911. Please, I can't remember my address.
Okay, could it be 450 South First Street?
450 South First Street. Yes.
Okay, what
Call
apartment?
ambulance. Call ambulance.
Okay, we're gonna headed that way. What apartment are you in?
406. My girls are dead.
Anjum was having a panic attack on the phone with the police and next to her neighbor. Nothing could help her. How do you even live through such a shock?
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Okay, ma'am, I'm gonna talk to the medics. Don't hang up, okay?
I'm gonna tell my God. I'm gonna. Oh my God. Please. My girls are dead. Oh my God.
Tiffany and Brittany would have turned 17 4 days later. During Anjum's call to 911, she still didn't know what Randy had done.
He's in the back room, and I don't know what he's done.
He's in the back room.
He's in my God. I don't care. Get over here now.
Okay, they're on their way. Okay. Okay, ma'am. I got medics on their way. I got officers on their way. The offender's in the back room. Ma'am, do you know where the gun is?
I don't know if he has it. Please just get over here. I don't want to answer you any more questions. He shot me.
Okay, ma'am, where are you shot at?
I don't know my leg. My God.
Okay,
Anjum was shot in the lower part of her leg. When the paramedics arrived, they rushed her to the ambulance, but it was too late for the girls.
Officers also found 2 teenage girls who were deceased. They were identified as twin sisters, Brittany and Tiffany Coughlin. Officers also found the father, Randall Coughlin, who was also deceased. Randall had a single gunshot wound to the head. Brittany and Tiffany each had a single gunshot wound to the head.
In between Anjum's heartbreaking screams, Randy took his own life in the bedroom. He had ended 3 lives in an hour and condemned his wife to live the rest of her life in unfathomable pain. Anjum not only had to live through the worst nightmare imaginable, she also had to relive it as she spoke to the officers at length about it that night.
So I walked in. I saw Brittany's head she's lying down, the TV is going, Friends playing. She would watch Friends like 100 times. I went in the kitchen. I started grabbing my paperwork. He's like, all the paper is right there. And he was behind me. And he said, turn around. And I see the gun pointed to his head. And you think it's fake. You don't think it's real. Because that's not happening. That's just not happening.
Anjum still thought her girls were alive at that point. She actually warned her husband not to take his own life or hers, as he would wake the girls.
And he goes, they're already dead. I didn't go and run to check on them. I went and grabbed him instead. I go, what are you talking about? What the hell are you talking about? He just pointed the gun to my head. And he goes, I want you to live and suffer. That split second, the gun went from my head to my leg.
Following the incident, Anjum wasn't herself anymore. She didn't care about anything anymore. What could give you joy or sorrow after losing your children this way? And without her own family to support her, Anjum was contemplating the same way out her estranged husband had taken.
I was on a suicide watch for about, I think, a week. If you ask me the days, I won't know. I don't even remember the date the funeral was. I guess I can look at the card and I'll know, but it's just a big blur.
In the months following the tragedy, Anjum battled depression, suffered nightmares, and constant panic attacks, and struggled to cope with the hole that the deaths of her daughters left in her life. Anjum chose to have everything in the apartment where the murders occurred thrown away. Get rid of everything, she thought, and there would be fewer reminders of her constant pain. Now she wishes she'd kept the girls' journals or some of their clothes. Her best friend, Ahern, a fellow Pakistani woman who divorced her husband, was her only rock during this time. And before, when Anjum was having marriage crisis, she would have nightmares. She still does. I told her there's no reason for her to ever have to be alone and handle this by herself. If there is a tough night still, she knows we can still call each other. That's just one of the deep scars left by Randy. Imagine how many people were affected by the deaths of Tiffany and Brittany. All the people that loved them, from their schoolmates, teachers, neighbors, and high school sweethearts. The whole community of St. Charles was shaken. This was a place known for its low crime rate, safe schools, and safe spaces for children to grow up into confident adults. How do you recover as a community from an event so shocking? St. Charles Deputy Police Chief David Kintz told the Washington Post, "This is a pretty calm community. We've had, I would say, a small handful of shootings in the last 30 years. This was by far and away not normal. This is heartbreaking. Randy took the easy way out for himself. By taking his own life, he avoided arrest, prosecution, and of course interrogation, where he would have to talk about his reasons behind the murders. The investigators looked into his recent past and discovered a final sad twist to his life. After Anjum moved out, Randy proceeded to self-medicate with old antidepressants. He'd gone off his medication for a while, and it's likely the meds were too old to have any effect. Toward the end of February 2017, he saw his doctor and complained of getting severe anxiety attacks. He was then diagnosed with severe depression and given a stronger antidepressant. By early March, he phoned his doctor again, complaining the meds were still doing nothing for him. So his doctor increased his dosage. And as were his habits, he would take 2 or 3 antidepressants at a time, with a serious amount of alcohol. Within a month, he fell into a rabbit hole of meds, depression, and bitter resentment toward his wife. Each fueled the other, and on March 10th, it all culminated with an evil plan. It was shocking even to the seasoned detectives working the case to see how little Randy cared for his daughters. How could he simply take them out with a gunshot to the head as a way to get back at his wife? How was that a solution to his endless sadness? In a final tragic twist, Tiffany and Brittany had been suffering because of their parents' fights for a long time. Gabrielle Williart, a classmate of Brittany's, said she would talk to her about this, but kept a brave face about it. She would always talk about how she didn't know if she could get her assignments done because she wasn't having a good home life, but she stayed so strong. You could tell how much she was hurting. The girls' school, St. Charles East High School, tweeted, "R.I.P. Tiffany Coughlin and Brittany Coughlin. True saints undeserving of this tragedy. Please wear purple or blue tomorrow to honor them." Anjum chose the same path: heal, grow, and honor her daughters in every way possible.
My name is Anjum Coughlin, and I'm a mother of Tiffany and Brittany Coughlin. Going through it just meant taking it day by day and come to realizing that, you know what, if there is such thing as God, if there is such thing as heaven and hell, I need to make sure I end up with my girls and be with my girls. If I do something stupid, I may not end up with my girls, and I want to go see them again. That keeps me going. I'm stressed out every day. Every day I don't know how I'm gonna get up in the morning and go to work, but I push myself to get through it.
Anjum uses her experience in productive ways, hoping to help others too. Sadly, Anjum is not alone in her pain. There are other people who lost their children in horrific ways, many of them killed by their own unstable parent or caretaker.
I learned a lot about myself. I think the one thing that I did not think I was capable of doing is to taking care of myself. And I'm surprised that where I am right now, it's going to be 5 years. And I also realized that I'm not as, I don't want to put label, but like dumb or stupid or not capable of figuring things out. Because I was put in that position. I was forced to be in that position.
Yeah, from the moment Anjum met Randy, he made her feel inferior. She was too young, too inexperienced, her family didn't love her, and she couldn't work as hard as him or earn as much as him. He reduced her to a dependent partner, something she would never have been if it weren't for him. He convinced her not to work, then he acted mighty as the sole breadwinner of the house. When she wanted to break up, he used this as leverage to make her stay for a decade. And when she finally got the courage to do it, he became petty and vindictive in the worst way imaginable.
His last request when he would I talk would always say, I want to be cremated. I didn't want him to have that. I wanted him to be buried, not get what he wanted, and be next to your daughters and tell them what you did.
Anjum still lives minutes away from the condo in St. Charles. She has gone back to work just 3 months after losing her daughters as a way to distract herself from the tragedy and stay strong. She is now advocating for keeping guns away from abusers. If gun sellers stop selling to people with a history of abuse, then perhaps it's one step toward a safer nation and safer children.
I think about who I'm gonna leave anything to now. There's nobody. for me to leave anything to. So what am I supposed to do at this point? I don't know what my future holds. I wish I knew.
Hey, thanks a lot for watching. What do you think about this case? Do you know of other similar stories? Let me know your thoughts in a comment, and before you go, make sure to like and subscribe. See you next time, and stay safe.